Breaking news from central London. A woman in her 60s has been killed. We think 5 people injured in a knife attack in the centre of the capital. Police arrested a 19-year-old man on the scene in Russell Square using a taser. Police say terrorism is a line of inquiry, but early indications suggest mental health is a significant factor. Bill Hayton has the latest. Sorry, in fact, we're going to our correspondent Andy Moore now, outside the headquarters of the Metropolitan Police in the centre of London. Andy, what do you have?
Well, we've just had a little bit more information from the police. This inquiry is still in its very early stages. It happened at 10:30 last night when police were called to an incident of a man with a knife in Russell Square in the centre of London. They attended very rapidly and the man was tasered and brought under control within 5 minutes. As you say, unfortunately, a woman in her 60s was killed and 5 other people were injured. The extent of their injuries isn't known. Now, just half an hour ago, we had a very unusual press statement in the early hours of the morning from Assistant Commissioner Mark Rowley. He's the Assistant Commissioner for Specialist Operations. So let's just listen to what he said.
I want to give a short statement regarding the tragic incident at Russell Square tonight that has sadly left 1 woman dead and 5 others, 1 woman and 4 men, injured. Police were called just after 10:30 p.m. last night to reports of a man armed with a knife assaulting people at Russell Square, Camden. Armed officers arrived at the scene within 5 minutes. They discharged a taser whilst confronting and arresting the suspect. 6 people have been injured, including the 1 woman who sadly died at the scene, and the others have received various injuries. The deceased woman is in her 60s, but it would be inappropriate at this time for me to give any more personal details about her. A 19-year-old man was arrested shortly after 10:39 p.m. and is currently in police custody at hospital. Early indications suggest that mental health is a significant factor in this case, and that is one major line of inquiry. But of course, at this stage, we should keep an open mind regarding motive, and consequently, terrorism as a motivation remains but one line of inquiry for us to explore. At present, the Met's Homicide Command are investigating the incident, but at present are supported by our counter-terrorism unit. As a precautionary measure tomorrow, Londoners will wake up and in the morning they will notice an increased police presence on the streets, including armed officers. This is there to provide reassurance and safety. We ask the public to remain calm, vigilant and alert. Thank you very much.
Assistant Commissioner Mark Rowley there at New Scotland Yard. Andy Moore is there right now. Andy, just one thing, whatever the motive here, people are bound to be hearing echoes of attacks in other cities recently. One thing perhaps we can clear up, there is no suggestion, I think, that there's more than one attacker, no suggestion there may be other attackers at large.
No, that's not the case. I was down at Russell Square earlier on and it was being treated as a crime scene that was being investigated, but certainly not one that was ongoing. There's no sense of any alert ongoing in London, though, as you heard there from Mark Rowley, there will be a bigger police presence on the streets in the morning. When I was down at Russell Square earlier on, there was a lot of police tape, you can imagine, and the police investigation was centering on a forensics tent, which was next to the green area in the centre of the square. And we could see forensics officers in their boiler suits carrying out a crime investigation. And again, as we heard from Mark Rowley, this is being treated as a murder investigation with support from counter-terrorist officers. That's how they are treating it at the moment.
Andy, I know details are hard to come by at the moment. Clearly the police have said all they're prepared to say publicly at the moment. Are you getting any steers at all on the name, the nationality of the dead woman, any indication how seriously injured the injured people are, and where exactly in Russell Square this happened, whether it was on the street, whether it was in a cafe or a restaurant?
Yes, well, the police said they wouldn't be naming the woman who died, a woman in her 60s, that's all we know. We don't know very much about those who were injured. Police didn't give very much information about the extent of their injuries. As to where the attack happened, it happened apparently on the street, on the pavement, just opposite some hotels, next to a park. It was some distance from a tube station, so there's no indication that the tube station was targeted in any way. It seems to have been an attack in the open air on the street. Perhaps what's remarkable about it is that it happened 10:30 on a night in London. Normally social media would be full of rumours, stories, photographs about what had happened, but at the moment remarkably little. People at the time were speculating that it might be gang-related violence of some sort. So as we heard from the police, clarity about the motive is lacking at the moment, and it may be that mental health issues are involved. There may be a terrorism aspect to it as well. Remember the Leytonstone attacker. This was last December in London, a man with a knife who tried to behead a fellow tube passenger. He was shouting at the time that this was for his brothers in Syria. You may remember that a bystander said, "You ain't no Muslim, bruv." And he was sentenced to life in prison just a few days ago at the Old Bailey. And he was a case where mental health issues and support for Islamic State were both factors in that attack. He had paranoid schizophrenia, but the judge also ruled that there were some rational aspects of what he did, that there was a motivation in support of Islamic extremism. So sometimes in these cases, the motivation is not single and clear-cut, it's complicated sometimes.
Andy, thank you very much indeed. Andy Moore there at New Scotland Yard. I think we can go straight to the scene now, to Russell Square. Our reporter Russell Trott. Russell, what are you hearing from there?
Well, Mike, we've the square fast filling up with the media, as you'd expect with an incident of this nature. A lot of police surrounding the square. There's no access actually to get into the square. There are a number of forensic officers and who've erected a tent, as Andy was explaining earlier, and people coming in and going out. That all seems to be pretty much the situation as it stands. Russell Square itself, in the heart of London, is rather surrounded by sort of luxury hotels and rather nice residences. It's a very smart area, and obviously it's the middle of the night here, and everybody's still in bed. But managed to speak to one resident who says that he saw at that particular moment when the attack took place, he saw a woman running towards, as if running to give chase to a man. He didn't think anything of it, this eyewitness at the time. He just said that they sort of disappeared around the corner on the street, and then he heard within 20 minutes later or so, he heard that an attack had taken place. He didn't even think to tell the police what he saw until a little while, but he's told them that information. Police here speaking to as many people as possible to get a sense of actually what has taken place.
Russell, we've been reporting that it was the first of several hundred more armed police have just been deployed on the streets of London. It seems that armed police in this case responded very quickly. I think they were there within 5 minutes of the call and then used a taser.
That's right. At 10:33 Wednesday evening, the police received the call, and within 6 minutes, I think it was, an arrest had been made. A man had been brought under control with this use of a non-lethal weapon. It's called a taser, discharged and effectively an electric current, electric shock, basically making the man harmless, or if he posed a threat at the time, we just don't know. But he was arrested and has been taken into custody.
All right, Russell, for the moment, thank you very much indeed.